Should South Alabama be considered the regular season champs? It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right, we will sort of preview the Sunbelt tourney. I'm going to do that again, I hope, with Matt Stewart. And actually, Tuesday's games don't start till late. So that hopefully that episode will be watched a lot. And hey, Southern Miss with a huge series win over TCU. And the Cajuns have not turned their season around. They are reeling once again. We'll get to baseball. I thought I was going to do football scheduling as that has officially come out. We will get to that sometime in the middle of this week, in the middle of the tournament. But, did I step into the Hornets' nest following Friday night's action that closed out the regular season. And it was quite the night. Texas State and JMU went to double overtime, starting a half an hour earlier than South Alabama and the Cajuns. And I had to get up early and go to work the next day. But I stayed up and watched both ball games. Of course, South Alabama finished sooner than the double overtime game did. And because the next morning I got up and made a video that did say, if you go back and watch the tweet and watch the video, I said, technically, South Alabama, JMU, Troy, and Arkansas State finished in a four-way tie. All right. They will all be considered champions. I said, due to the tiebreaker, South Alabama is the regular season champs. And that is the way, I am going to consider them. All right. The other schools are going to consider them champs, and that's fine. All right. If the coaches get bonuses based on regular season championships, that's okay too. If the schools are going to print out T-shirts and caps that say 2025 co-champions, that's fine too. We need more positivity, although this generation certainly gets enough grief for participation trophies. All right. But do what you want because we need more positivity in our lives right now. All right. But deep down, though, these coaches know whether they won or lost. All right. And we can all say, each one of these teams, JMU, South, Arkansas State, and Troy, all had chances to win the Sun Belt Conference outright, regular season, okay? South Alabama, to begin with, don't lose to Texas State, all right? Same for JMU, right? Arkansas State, don't get swept by South. Boom, all right? Troy, don't lose to the Cajuns. All right. So each one of these teams had ample opportunity to not be in the position they are in. All right. JMU could have won it outright. Sorry to pinpoint it on him, but Mark Freeman hitting both ends of the free throws, they would be outright champions. All right. South Alabama coming off a huge win over Arkansas State, couldn't put away Texas State. And boy, that Texas State game against JMU, a lot like the game against South Alabama and JMU both had relatively high single-digit leads in the first half and just couldn't put away Texas State. And Texas State just kept coming and coming and coming. And they had a shot. And we're going to show you the tiebreakers. And there's actually somebody who went out there and showed that maybe App State got screwed by the Sun Belt tiebreakers. And if you guys have been following me since I've been doing the Locked On Sun Belt, you know how much I despise Sun Belt tiebreakers. I did not make up the Sun Belt tiebreakers. It's not my thing. They give me a headache, whether it's football, basketball, or baseball. I usually don't go do it in softball. But I'm not a Sun Belt tiebreaker guy. It is like reading constitutional law. It is incredibly difficult. All right. And somebody pointed it out that they may have messed up their own tiebreakers. So if they can't get it right, how can we be expected to? All right. But I happen to think because South Alabama won the tiebreakers and they're the number 1 seed, they are the regular season champs in my mind. All right. Having said that, if it was one of the other teams that won the tiebreaker, I'd say the same thing. All right. Now, I don't mind saying I'm probably rooting for Richie Riley, covering South Alabama, like Richie Riley. This is probably his second best team. His best team was probably the COVID team that didn't get a chance to play. They were also going straight to the semifinals, but didn't get a chance to go down to New Orleans because the tournament was canceled. Also, I think that team was going to win it. I think this is wide open. We'll get to that here in a minute. But I do want to show you the tiebreakers, and it's not actually this close. All right. And I included Marshall in these games because JMU only would have had a couple of games. So let's see if we can get this, see if it works out the way I want it to. Okay. I'm pretty sure this is it. Okay. And correct me if my math is wrong. It kind of goes across the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, not up, down. All right. So South Alabama is 1, JMU is 2, Troy is 3, Arkansas State is 4. All right. So South Alabama, sweeps Arkansas State, splits with Troy, beats JMU. I'm not even sure if that was in the new year. Let me see when that was. I want to see when that exactly was, because it was really early on in the season. Really early on in fact, it was in December. It opened up the season, and that was a incredible blowout, 77-49. JMU scored 26 in the first half and 23 in the second half. They are a different team. They are a much different team. Nonetheless, that doesn't change anything. And South Alabama needed overtime to beat Marshall in Mobile. Nonetheless, they're 5-1. Pretty good. Their only loss is to Troy at Troy. JMU split with Marshall. They beat Troy. They beat Arkansas State, and they lost to South Alabama. So they're 3-2. They don't have as many games because, although they did play the teams in the West, they only have the one series with Marshall. So they're 3-2. So their winning percentage gets them second, I presume. Let me know if that's not right. I mean, they are second, but that may not be the reason why, because again, Sunbelt tiebreakers give me the headache. Troy is theirs. They're 1-1 against South Alabama, 1-1 against Arkansas State, beat Marshall, but lost to JMU. All right. And then Arkansas State just was awful against these teams. They split versus Troy, 0-2 versus South Alabama, 0-1 versus Marshall, and 0-1 versus JMU. They're just bad. Just bad. And again, publicly, Brian Hodgson would say we're conference champions or co-champions. However, privately, he'd say we finished 4th because he's a competitor and he knows what happened. All right. Publicly, he's going to get whatever bonus he gets for regular season championships. All right. They're going to make rings for regular season champions, and the players deserve it. But these guys know. Don't tell me they don't know. Right. They know. All right. And again, if this was somebody else, if it was Arkansas State, if it was Troy or JMU, they won the tiebreaker, I'd say the same thing. It just happens to be one of the teams that I have covered that people don't agree with me. And boy, the Troy fans are touchy. I don't know if it's just because it's South Alabama won the tiebreaker or not, right? All right. But and these are not even close. South Alabama is 2 games better than Troy, like 4 games better than Arkansas State, and a game and a half better than JMU, and beat them head to head. So it's not particularly close when it comes to those tiebreakers. All right. Having said that, I think any one of those 4 teams and Marshall can win this thing. And we'll talk about that next. We'll do that right after I tell you about Roy. Attention, Sunbelt fans. Ever wished you could directly support your favorite Sunbelt athletes and be part of their journey? Now you can with Roy. the NIL app that puts fans in control. Before Roy, NIL deals were often handled behind closed doors, and fans like you didn't have a clear way to directly support the players you love. Now, with Roy, you can make a real impact and feel closer to the athletes representing the Sun Belt. With Roy, you can choose the player you want to support, decide how much to contribute, and get exclusive content straight from the athletes you back. The best part, if your player transfers, you get your money back. So it's a risk-free way to show your support and make your voice heard. Support your favorite players directly and help shape the future of Sunbelt sports. Download the Roy app from the App Store and start backing Sunbelt schools now the way they deserve. The transparency, trust, and real impact. This is the future of college sports. Join it now by downloading Roy and supporting your favorite players. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. We'll get a lot of comments. All right, mostly it's just been Troy fans. I don't know if they're the ones who follow me the most. I presume it was the Cajuns and South Alabama. But I didn't hear too much from Arkansas State. I didn't hear too much from JMU. It's just the Troy fans. It may be because it's South Alabama. I don't know. But also they finished third. Troy today is having a net cutting ceremony. I don't know if I've ever heard of that. Having a net cutting ceremony Saturday, 3 days after it happened. Again, bring more positivity into the world. A little, get the fans together before you go to Pensacola. A little practice, a little kind of end of the season, midnight madness type of deal. I think that's great. Still a little bit different. Nonetheless, I do happen to think that the conference tournament is wide open. And again, we're hoping, crossing our fingers, Matt Stewart, who's calling the tournament all the way to the end, getting bumped for ESPN2, will be on with me tomorrow. But you can see the bracket. And the big difference is there are no off days. If you're a Southern Miss, you're going to win 7 ball games. Right? Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Remember, UConn won 6 in the Big East. All right. They did it. All right. That was a long time ago. Of course, I don't think the Big East had teams go all the way to the semifinals. A little bit different. All right. I happen to think that this is wide open. I don't happen to think that both South Alabama and James Madison will get to the finals. We've been over that only twice in about the last 15 years or so. I'm sorry, 3 times. 3 times in the last 15 years has the top 2 teams won. Doesn't happen very often. I happen to think that any one of those top 4 teams and Marshall can win it. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's happened to App State's mojo, but they seem to have lost it. But if you play this out and it goes chalk and Arkansas State is playing South Alabama, that means South Alabama would have to beat Arkansas State for the 3rd time this year. Now, Arkansas State has not played South Alabama well at all. All right. Well, I'll rephrase that. The game in Jonesboro was closer. If South Alabama could have hit, here's the thing. If South Alabama could hit some free throws, it would have been a double-digit victory. All right. The game in Mobile got close because Arkansas State got hot late. That made it a closer ball game, but it was closer to a 20-point game than it was a 10-point game. All right. And I think the end of the game was like 12. So Arkansas State hasn't come real close to beating them in 2 games. Can South Alabama do it again? Number 3, that's not going to be easy. Not at all. All right. If somehow Marshall beats Arkansas State and has to play South Alabama, right? That would be their 3rd game, where South Alabama would be playing their 1st game. South Alabama, as I mentioned, needed overtime to beat Marshall at home. That's not going to be easy. Now they're playing them on a neutral court. Not easy. Let's go to the other side. Also, be careful for Georgia State, although they just lost to Georgia Southern. I would say Georgia State's a little bit of a wild card. I mean, I don't see Southern Miss and Coastal Carolina winning. I mean, I guess they could beat one of them, could beat Georgia Southern, but who knows? I would think Marshall is going to win their game. All right. Basically, is going to end that Cinderella story over there. On the other side, I guess the Cajuns could make a little bit of a run. It's not that difficult, but ODU could make a little bit of a run because they have some offensive firepower. The thing is, who wants to play Texas State right now? The only thing Texas State you could say about Texas State is they beat South Alabama and JMU at home, and now it's neutral court. But I wouldn't want to play Texas State. The thing is, by the time Texas State gets to Troy, right, Texas State will be playing their third game in 3 days, whereas Troy will be tipping off for the first time. It's one thing if you played one game, but now you're going to play your third game in 3 days. So that could be a thing. We'll see. App State certainly has a potential, but I also think they have they've just lost their mojo. I don't know if they've lost their legs. They have it's just going in the wrong direction for them. They've lost 4 out of their last 5, right? They had won 4 in a row, had an odd loss to Georgia State, beat Georgia Southern, and haven't won since. They won 4 in a row and 5 out of 6, but now they've lost 4 out of 5. Now, it's not gone well for App State. I mean, they certainly have, they got CJ Huntley and Miles Tate, certainly have the ability, right? I mean, they could beat Texas State, and they could certainly beat Troy. Troy doesn't have necessarily some offensive firepower. That could be a defensive battle. And if it comes down to 1 or 2 possessions, App State could beat Troy. Sure. I'm not sure how likely that is, but not out of the realm of possibility. And again, I don't have a heavy favorite. I truly believe in my heart any one of the top 4 teams and Marshall can win this thing. I don't think App State can. I think any one of the top 4 teams and Marshall can win this thing. I think Marshall is probably playing. Let me see what their record is. I'm not sure. They've won 4 in a row and 6 out of 8. They did lose to South Alabama. Remember, there was an overtime. And they have a questionable loss to the Cajuns. That may be a situation where they, as they say, lost the same game twice. Didn't get over the game to South Alabama and then lost to the Cajuns. They haven't lost since. So I do think it's top 4 teams and Marshall. If it's anybody else, I will be shocked. Matt Stewart doesn't think Marshall can win it because he doesn't think a team that has to win 4 times can win it. But that may change depending on who they play. If Marshall has to play JMU, that may be an issue. But if somebody knocks off JMU, whereas Marshall's playing their 4th game and Troy is playing their 3rd game, it may not be that big of a difference compared to JMU playing their 2nd game and Marshall playing their 4th. We'll see. All right, let's, again, take your comments. Let me know what you guys think. Again, I'm going to get some flack for the first segment of the episode. But, I mean, I tried to back off. Certainly not going to take on Barry McKnight. I am the president of the Barry McKnight fans. And I'm not going to take on Barry McKnight on Twitter. All right, let's take a timeout. Southern Miss with a huge series win over TCU in baseball. South Alabama with a win. Troy stays hot. We will talk about that next. Sunbelt Baseball right after I tell you about FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine live bets into same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's talk a little Sunbelt baseball. And how about Southern Miss taking it on the chin against Ole Miss early in the week after they did get into the top 25 and then coming away with a big series win over TCU. Easier to see it on their website than on the Sunbelt website. They have improved to 9-3 overall, and they actually lost the series opener 5-2, but come back and win 5-3, and then take that Sunday rubber match 11-3. How about that? You go in to TCU, lose the Friday opener, and come back and win the series. That's nice. So I don't think they would have, even if they lost 2 out of 3, I'm not sure they would have been out of the top 25. But now they may actually move up. They may go up after going to Fort Worth and taking 2 out of 3 from the Horned Frogs. That's outstanding. Let's see if we can see Sunday's action as the Golden Eagles bats got allowed, and they jumped on top early and put it away late. Scored 1 in the first, 2 in the second, added 1 in the fifth. TCU scored 3 in the fifth, so it was 4-3. But then Southern Miss had a 5 spot in the 8th and 2 more in the 9th for an 11-3 victory. Very nice. Matthew Russo, 3 for 4, 5 runs batted in, scored 3 times. Nice. Tucker Stockman, 1 for 4 with an RBI, scored twice. Nick Monastir, he scored twice. And Jay Cook drove in a pair of runs as well. Matthew Adams pitched okay. Couldn't quite get out of the 5th. 3 runs, 5 hits, 4 2/3 innings. But Graydon Harris and Brooks Willoughby, 4 1/3 innings of 2 hits, shutout baseball, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. So really good job by the Southern Miss bullpen to get the job done. All right, elsewhere in the baseball, let's see here what we got here. Troy sweeps Penn, so they stay hot. Not exactly on the same level as TCU, but Troy stays hot. They could move up as well. 3 relatively easy wins. Let's see here. 11-1 and 10-9 on Saturday, and then 6-1. So a little bit of a battle on Saturday. Cajuns, on the other hand, they got swept. 7-4 on Friday. And here's the problem. Chase Morgan's really good, but everybody's got a good Friday night starter. And the Cajuns got a run in the board against UC Irvine, but Chase walked a batter and then gave up a home run. And then in the 8th inning, the Cajuns tied the game up, and UC Irvine scored 3 runs with the benefit of 1 base hit. there were walks and hit by batters, and the Cajuns bullpen melted down. And you can't compete when you do that. When you just give the game away, you can't do that. UC Irvine won it 7-4 and 9-6 and 12-5. Cajun schedule tougher. We'll see if that comes back to help them later on. South Alabama with a series win over Jacksonville. They took the Friday game. Oh, actually, they lost the Friday game at home 11-3, but then they won Saturday 15-1 in 7 innings run rule. And then they won on Sunday. They doubled them up 10-5. So quickly checking out the standings, if we can get to that spot. Troy 11-1 overall. Well, obviously Sunbelt hasn't started yet. Coastal Carolina 10-2. All right, Georgia State off to a nice start. They're 9-2. Southern Miss 9-3. Texas State 7-4. South Alabama 7-5. App State 6-5. Georgia Southern 6-5. ULM 5-5. JMU 5-6. Marshall 5-6. The Cajun 5-7. Yeesh. Old Dominion 2-5. And Arkansas State is 3-9. Quickly, if I guess we have some more. Let's see if any big ball games coming up this week. Coastal's going to Carolina on Tuesday. That's nice. ULM off to Fayetteville, Arkansas. That's impressive. Wake Forest going to App State. Very nice. Southern Miss going to take on, going back to Starkville. All right. Taking on Mississippi State for a little bit of a rematch there. Let's see here on Wednesday. A couple of ball games. ULM playing a little bit of a series. Is that a series? Yeah, the ULM playing a couple of games in Arkansas. JMU going to Maryland. Troy's playing at Alabama. It's got some nice weekday games going on. Georgia State's going to Georgia. Very nice. Old Dominion's got it. Is that a series at Auburn? Wow, Old Dominion's playing a series at Auburn. Very nice. South Alabama is at Louisiana Tech. Dallas Baptist is going to Lafayette. Cajuns, see if they got a chance to turn it around. All right. A little bit of a sneaky series. App State taking on, I think that's a College of Charleston. All right. Is it the College of Charleston? Or maybe it's just Charleston. No, it says it's College of Charleston. And they're supposed to win they're supposed to win their conference. Let's see anybody else. That looks like about it. UNC Wilmington, which is usually pretty good, is heading to Southern Miss in Hattiesburg. So should be another good weekend. It should be the final weekend before. Right? Is it the final weekend before Sunbelt play? It is. Final weekend before Sunbelt play. So in 2 weeks, Sunbelt play does open up. And, of course, we will have a complete coverage of the Sunbelt Conference Tournament. We'll get Matt Stewart on. We'll see if we get some other people on. It's kind of tough because the people I'm going to want to talk to and when I can talk to them are going to be at the arena watching the games. And there's no way they're going to be able to hear. So it is what it is. So unless the teams, I don't think the teams that I'm going to be covering are going to be during the day. Anyways, maybe we'll get them. We'll see. I do appreciate it. Again, I think the team that finishes first, wins the tiebreaker, is the number 1 seed, is the regular season champs. Happens to be South Alabama. Again, I'm not changing anyone's mind. All right. I understand that. If it was Troy, if they won the tiebreaker, all right, they would be the regular season champs in my mind. All right. It is what it is. If it makes you happy, it makes you happy. But South Alabama won the tiebreaker, and that's why they're the number 1 seed, and they didn't win it by a little bit either, and they didn't win it by a technicality. All right? No. I am not I'm not a big fan of the Sunbelt tiebreakers either, but I didn't invent them either. So we'll see what happens with the comments on this tomorrow. But I'm open for it. So you at least here it is. Hashtag always a bright side. You guys gave me an episode. I'll say that. You certainly gave me a topic to discuss. All right. I appreciate it. Thanks very much. We will talk to you again. Hopefully Matt Stewart will join me. I may or may not put him on the spot to say who's the Sun Belt champion. He's probably going to give me the company line, which is fine. And we'll see what he thinks about the regular season overall and who he thinks can win this. Because I honestly believe it is wide open. Any one of those 4 teams, well, not that wide open, but any one of the top 4 teams and Marshall can win this thing. Wouldn't be shocked if any one of those teams did it. I would be shocked if somebody else did. Would be shocked. All right. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you guys had a great weekend. We will be back tomorrow with another episode of Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day.